Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to a Transfer Market Metrics special. It is October. There is not too long until the January window opens, and there's patch journalists saying Liverpool are not expected to be too active, but let's be honest, people, a centre-half is needed, and that's who the latest names are, aren't they, doing the round? You'll have seen them the same as us, Upamecano, Schlotterbeck and others. We've talked about a few before and we'll be revisiting some. I mean, Barts, will get straight into this almost with the centre-back situation. All the names at the moment, and a lot of them seem to be for the summer. There's plenty of names we can say, but it all seems to be summer links. Right now, though, with three senior centre-halves, Liverpool do need an option really for January if they're going to compete on all the fronts they want to, surely.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you don't, you're rolling some dice and you are going to have to get comfortable as a fan of seeing Endo play at centre-half, I would suggest. If we go any further in, if we beat Palace, say, it's EPL, isn't it, in 3 games' time? Let's say we beat Palace. There's a chance there that if you continue in that competition, you're going to end up seeing somebody who's not a centre-half player because the Champions League just keeps doing that with the Premier League. You're not going to want to burn minutes of Konate and Van Dijk and that. So the only way you're going to rest that is by playing Gomez with Endo, right? I think it's paramount really. And as you've already seen, Ibu came off against Chelsea, went to France, sat on the bench for the first game, then got sent home. And there's might train, might not. What Slot said today, but and that's kind of Ibu really. He was brilliant for us last season and was robust, but then from the Madrid game, he wasn't. He was breaking down. He wasn't playing well. So I think if you're not going to get someone in January, I think you are. You're playing with fire a little bit personally, and I'd hate to see yet another season derailed because we've got one really weakness in a position. When we lost Gomez, and when I went to Chelsea, I think we lost 3 or 4 centre halves in the space of a few days, and that was an amazing team, but we didn't get anywhere in the league because we lost all centre half. So I'd hate that to happen again. I really would.
Yeah, which just as a pure thing, it's terrifying, isn't it? Because he clearly doesn't fancy Joe Gomez at all. And anyone who's doubting that, look at how Ibu Konate's been playing, and still Gomez doesn't get a single minute or doesn't start the games, even when Ibu's been in stinking form. As you said, that's 2 games already in 10 where Ibu's come off this season with something, 2 games in 10. So that worry. Yeah, and I've seen the reports. Obviously, it terrified me when I read it on holiday around, well, we've got options that Gravenberch and Andy Robertson and others can drop in there. So, yeah, let's just hope.
Let's not do that.
No, let's not do that. But, got to be honest, Bart, in the 2 that we're going to look at, first of all, one's a name we've looked at before, one's kind of well known to fans and coming up. Maybe it's a contractual situation. Who knows? And we're being used. But these 2 do seem to be summer-based links. That's what all the reports suggest. It seems unlikely that January will be an option with these 2. And especially with the World Cup in mind, would they be keen to move in January? I've got my doubts on that realistically, because they've both got, hopes for themselves, their countries of going far in this tournament. So the first one we're going to look at, Dayot Upamecano, well known. And we watched the footage on this boy quite a bit, Barts, to really get into this. And I mean, 26, 27 in a few days. So that's important. It's probably easier to say 27 realistically. 34 caps. There are some raw attributes in terms of pace, a good passer. There's a lot to like. But there's things I'm a little bit concerned about. I'm sure you are when we watch the footage, but we'll do the normal process where we look at his stats and talk through this. What are we saying when we start to profile Dayot Upamecano? And we'll probably do some screen shares and bits as well.
I think you're right to say he's physically good. If you look at the Bundesliga, gives us the stats for this guy. So he's got a 34 top speed recorded this season, and he's on a 77 sprint. So that's pretty good for a centre half. He's not. Yeah, I think you and I are both old enough to remember when we were looking at Ibu to come over from the Bundesliga. We looked at both of them because they were both at RB at the time. And we went for Ibu, I think, at that time because Klopp preferred the aerial ability. So I think it's probably purely the aerial ability and the fact that Ibu is taller than Dayot. But he's Dayot's at aerials is 61.5 aerials this season, which isn't amazing. It's Gomez Kwanzaa type level. But if you do want to start with classic, I can do that for you, no problem. There we go. So his classics here. Centre halves. It's really hard to profile centre halves. You and I had a discussion many times because they're particularly with teams that have a lot of possession. They're just not asked to do a lot. And that sounds really stupid thing, but it's really hard to measure how good someone is when they're not actually asked to do a lot. And it's weird. But he does have a favour for tackles and interceptions, which could be read as a good thing. We've said that before. His aerials are a little bit higher on this one, but I think his overall is 61, so it's a little bit down. Yeah. The bit that I think people get excited about this guy is his passing in the middle, right? 99 percentile for his passing attempted, completion at 93.2. He's progressive 94. He carries the ball a little bit, and he sort of has some take-ons as well. And if you look at that kind of where he is, he plays on the right of a 2 for Bayern, okay, which is a plus for us because he doesn't have to get used to playing a different system. And your averages for Bayern this season for progressive passes a game. So that's not high, but it's not low. I mean, it's better than Konate, to be frank. And what people love about Joe, when you hear people talk about Joe Gomez playing from the back, is the punch pass. You must have seen that numerous times in the stands where Joe picks it up, punches it into the front line. Right. So Dayot can do that for Bayern Munich. A number of times, if you watch the footage, he picks it up and just fires it into Kane or fires it into whoever's playing over the years in that front 9 position. So he bypasses the whole of the midfield with a pass. He can carry it for a little bit, which is shown in the carrying metrics. In the box, I think we'd be lying to say that was a strength of his because a lot of these are in the 50s or 30s. He does great opportunities, which again, if you watch the footage, is often like a decoy or he'll knock a ball down from a header or a set play and then they'll finish up. So there are some things about that. And with his carrying ability, he does carry into good areas of the pitch, quite a successful way to create a threat. But I think you and I both watched it. I think he reads the game well. I think he's experienced for someone so young. He's played twice a week now for last least the last 5-6 years, a long period of time of his game. Things to be aware of from watching him. I think he's physical, as you said, but referee the Bundesliga different to the Premier League. So there's a lot of times where you'll see footage of him in a 1v1. He's got his arm on the shoulder. He's in a tussle. It's like a common thing when he's tracking back. He'll put his arm up, and it's just little things that might be absolutely fine. I mean, he's playing in the Champions League, but it's just little things in the Premier League might not come out as well as it would do. One of the good things for him, which I think Ibu's not done so well in the last 6 months, is when the fullback gets beat, Dayot is there to stop the cross. He reads that situation really well. Now, particularly if you're looking at our current setup, we're both fullbacks. I think Kirk is actually doing okay on this, but certainly our right back, where Dayot will be playing, is not stopping the crosses. So the crosses are coming in, and you need the centre half to help block that out. So that's something that I think could be really good with him. And the other thing I quite liked about watching him was if he's tasked. So if you're his 9, he's quite happy to come high and press you. He's not going to. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to sit off and be like, right, I'm going to wait for you to come. He's quite happy to go and get involved, high up the pitch, halfway line, press you, nick that ball, and then play from there, play progressively from high. So, yeah, I think there's lots of on-ball stuff that's really good with him. Off-ball, I think he's a robust defender. I mean, he's played a good number of minutes. If I can find them down here for a minute, he's played a good set of minutes over the seasons. There we go, minutes. So he's consistently playing nearly 5 minutes, which is a good chunk of minutes. Remember, Bundesliga play less games, so there's some things about that. And he's playing Champions League, so he's playing twice a week, high level of minutes. I think for me, you and I have spoken about this hybrid. So Klopp used to profile this type of centre-half, which was a dominant aerial monster, right? But Slot seems to want this progressive guy that is good on the ball. I think Dayot is kind of a bit of both, but I think he can be a dominant, aggressive centre-half, and I think he can also pass the football. So I can see why the attraction is, but at his age profile, wages, the rest, I'm not sure that would be my top pick if I was looking at it. But he certainly has some good attributes for sure that I think you could definitely, if he's really for free and isn't just using us to get a deal somewhere else, then for sure you can see why we linked. But yeah, I think there's some good things. A few little things to note from coming into the Premiership might change a little bit, but a top speed at 34 for a centre half, that's more than adequate to do. And the number of sprints he's done already, 77. Even in the limited time that Bayern are without the ball, it shows you that he's the one chasing back, making the Western close. So yeah, I think there's some good elements to his game, should we say? But for 26, 27,
it's almost like it's surface level stuff, because you can't just rule him out, because you say excellent passer, 89 a game. I mean, nearly like 1 a minute, very much ticks it over. 94th percentile for progressive, not as much as others, but as you say, the punch pass. So he's got that in his arsenal. 34 caps as well. So, experience, as you say, at the top level, won certain things. But then when you really, like, as you say, you watch the footage, the aerial element is a bit of concern, because it's not strong. It's below a Gomez even. He is 6'1" as well, so he's not the biggest in that sense. I mean, it's weird, because I think you phrased it well. And is it right to say separate on the ball, off the ball? Because when you watch the footage of him on the ball, and even for France against Iceland, you saw he pinged some brilliant passes, like punched it through, like he really does. He's an exceptional passer. People might not like Upamecano, but if they say he's an exceptional passer, it's a stupid comment. You can see it as the eye test and the stats match. Problem is, aerial-wise, and as you said, he tends to get physical, and he just reminds me, I don't know if this is fair when you watch his footage and you think of it, Barts, a bit Lovren-esque, capable of something brilliant, but capable of just brain-dead decisions. And you look at that Iceland game the other night, and him and Koundé make a mess, but he's moving all over the place. And is it fair to say it's the sometimes off the ball, like jostling, if you want to call it that, where he puts himself, his decision-making, the worry about the height in the Premier League, 6'1", and the aerial stats. That's the sort of thing, before we get to the financials, that start to just concern, is it fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. I think you're right. The jostling part of it, if you watch him, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. If you watch him, he does this thing where he likes to get in, and I just think that's a bad habit, I think, because referees can quickly pull you up and say that's a foul, right? And equally, I think it might be a sign that you're not confident you can beat the player. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like you should be fine to just go past, and shoulder to shoulder is different. This is different. This is properly up, trying to pull it back. So and also this season we haven't been great in the middle defender set plays. I don't think we really ought to be bringing in a centre half that's not going to help us improve that, right? Because whatever Ibu is, his aerials is one of his strengths, right? If you're going to replace a centre half that's got aerials generally in the 80 plus with a guy of 60, that's Slot mentioned it in the press today. We're experiencing more long balls than we ever have done, right? True. So you need centre halves to be able to deal with those long balls, and the easiest way is just to head it back the way it came, right? Yes, we're Liverpool, we want to bring it down and play, cool. But still, sometimes it's just easy to go, do you know what, I'm just going to head that back that way into an area. So if you're reducing your centre-half from a guy that's doing it nearly nine times out of 10 to a guy that does it 5-6 times out of 10, that's a problem. Because our 6 isn't renowned for heading the ball either. You know what I mean? So you might be creating a bit of a, like you said, the off-ball stuff. I'm not quite sure to take that the on-ball doesn't balance the off-ball. If you get what I mean at the moment, I think it's just so that's just my thing from watching him. People will tell me, "Oh, you haven't watched enough," and the rest of it, and that's cool. You go and watch hundreds of Bayern Munich games, but the ones I watched, I was like, he's a good defender. I'm not saying he isn't, but can you transport that guy to the Premier League? I'm not sure.
And it's worrying habits, as you say, when you're watching that jostling, that grabbing, just a bit of head loss at times, especially as it gets towards the middle of the box. There are big concerns there. We talk financials from what we know, and you're right, because it's like Dr. Evil style, but when you say free, I mean, Upamecano, and this is a report, a few from Germany even yesterday, saying that the big hold-up in this Bayern renewal is the loyalty bonus, if you want to call it that, he wants renewing, which is around 20 million euros they're talking. Real Madrid are obviously in the mix because they've got the king for French centre-halves on a free, as we know, so that comes in as well. But suggestions there at the same time, Bart, that from doing a bit of digging as we do at Anfield Index and speaking to German sources, that the renewal deal that Upamecano's looking for, buying a big spender, as we know, and the wage bill's gone up, Davis, Kane, everyone like that have got big renewals. So he's looking for about 16 million euros per year before bonuses. So, over, 200 grand a weekish, then bonuses and all that. So we would move straight into our top earners. 27, that signing bonus, those type of wages. The financials make this seriously difficult, if it even is a goer, don't they?
To put this guy in the top earners of the club walking in, that's. Yeah, I'm not sure that's worth the potential unrest. Yeah, because players talk, people talk. Yeah. You're letting Ibu's going to be the one walking out the door, and they're going to turn around and go, right, you've paid this guy what? Why didn't you just pay him? Like, do you know what I mean? There's going to be questions around that, and if you come in like that, you've got to be able to stand up and be like, yeah, I am that good. So and we know how FSG work. If he's coming in that age profile, this is potentially his last big contract, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to have him now till there is going to be no
resale value.
No real sell value, right? So he's going to walk out on a free at the end of this deal, basically, right? So, I think this is a potentially agent talk, or us just having a word and see if we can do it on that. But looking at those numbers, I would think Hughes might go, "No, you're all right."
Yeah, I think we are struggling to see this one being in the mix. But, there's constant links. It's a new one for us, so we've got to explore it. This kind of makes me laugh, this one a bit, Bart, because Nico Schlotterbeck, I've seen about 20 reports in the last few weeks quoting, quote-unquote, exclusive Liverpool interested in Nico Schlotterbeck. We said this on the transfer show last summer. We've already done him a little bit on TNM. And the thing we said previously, there's Liverpool were looking at Schlotterbeck in great depth. It was before Van Dijk's renewal was the big thing. But obviously we're a year on, Virgil's a year older, all those types of things. Liverpool do need a centre-half now, more than ever as well. Nico Schlotterbeck. And let's talk the footage that we've watched, first of all, as well. I mean, should do the fair bits because people will ask us this. 25, 26 in December when you're comparing him against Upamecano. 22 caps, so some pedigree, played in the Champions League. But just from the footage, I'm going to say this, excellent on the ball from what I saw. What did your eye test tell you?
No, I think he is. I think he's... See, this is the kind of player you watch and you go, all right, I can see why. This is the right age profile for me. He's 25, 26. He's not the older. He's not going to... I don't think it'll cost you as much. We'll come on to that in a minute. But People will go when he plays in a 3 for Dortmund. Okay, yeah, cool. But he also plays in a 2 for Germany.
Yeah.
And plays equally as well. So I like that adaptability, that ability to play in 2 systems. I think that's clever. I think that means he's got a tactical brain on him rather than someone who can only play in a 2. So if you suddenly need to change it up in a game, you can't do it. So I like this guy. I think this, like his passing, I mean, look at the stats later on, but it's all green on the usual FRF, but his passing range is great. It's in the middle bit here. It's all in the 90th percentiles. And if you look at his full report for passing, I mean, that is a hell of a lot of green for you. Pick out any category you want, and it's green. Yeah. You know, crossfield passes, expected assists, completed, short, long, medium are all in there. So medium is over 90% completion, short obviously over 90%, long just short of 90 at 89.5. I mean, we could be nice and round it up to 90% for a long pass completion, right? That's just so sorry, 65 overall 90%. So yeah, it's just lots to like about his passing, and that does come through when you watch him. He's happy to pass the ball, long, short, a switch, a progressive pass straight down the middle. He'll make that as well. Yeah. I think his progressive passes are something like 6.67 per 90, which is more than Dayot's at 4, so it's up. He also, the interesting thing, so there's a few caveats here. He's only played 4 times this season. He's coming back from an injury, right? Only played 4 times. He has played 2 internationals as well, but 4 league games. It's interesting that Germany brought him straight back in, by the way. So he played 4 and then he's gone straight back in the national side. So that gives you a little bit of a thing about how they feel about him. I think if you watch the footage, he can pass the football. That's great. But he also can carry it. And he carries it into just outside, so the left half space or the right, depending on which side of the pitch he's carrying it through. But he typically carries it up to the half space side, and then he'll make a decent pass, or he'll carry it into there and then make a progressive pass, right? So he's not just coming in, making a little ploddy side-by pass or a little thing into there like nothing. He's actually looking to influence play positively with a carry. And that's really, when you watch him, you'll know exactly what he's really impressive by doing that. His passing range, I just thought was just exceptional. I've seen him ping it to both wings. I've seen him do the little, the Robertson dink over the top. I've seen him do that.
Van Dijk-esque, like you say, with the switches almost as well.
The switches are there. He just pick it up and be like, yeah, I'll do that. But what I like about, he has that option to carry as well. He has the same thing I said about Dayot and Van Dijk. When the fullback gets beat, he's in the right position to stop the cross. Yeah. Okay, so that's a good thing to have. Aerials, 71.4.
Nice.
So that's mid-range for us. We could do it being higher, but it's not. It's better than a lot of our centre halves at the moment. One of the things I thought was really interesting from his last game, right? Okay, so he made 10 progressive passes last game he played. Okay, Master League game. 9 of those ended up in the final third. 9 of them, right? Now, progressive pass only has to move 20%, right? So, but 9 of them ended up in that final third with over 50% of those in the box, right? So, when I say he's affecting play, that's incredible for a centre half to be doing that. I normally expect your 6 to do that, right? But he's doing that. He's 32.5 top speed, so he's not as quick as Dayot, but he's not slow. 24 sprints in 4 appearances, so it's just about 5 per game. Shows you might be just easing himself back into it. Plus, he's playing central of a 3 for Dortmund. He's not really the one that's tasked to do the big long sprint back. It's normally the wider player that goes with. So that's another reason why context is really important, because you'd be like, oh, he's not doing many sprints, but he's not really tasked with doing that. Things that I don't like about him, if I can be like that, is he does do a bit of a stab tackle. So he'll come up and press a player and then try and stab the ball from behind.
Nick it almost, silly at times.
And that, again, is a thing that in the Prem you'll just get booked for, or the player will just dive and you'll give away a foul, right? And the other thing, this is kind of a reoccurring thing with a couple of these, is does have a tendency to go to ground. Just a thing I'm like, don't really like my centre halves going to ground, to be honest with you, because it takes them out of the game, all right? And it also can lead to very clever players knowing that and winning a foul or a penalty. So there are things that could be a little bit, but I think generally for me, he's got a hell of a lot of positives. He's young, international, twice a week, good minutes before the injury. All right, now yes, it's going to take a bit of time to build up. The progressive passes from deep, nearly 7 per 90 per game. It's impressive in a top league. We're not talking. We'll come to the Sporting boys later on, but in the Bundesliga, that's impressive. Yeah. And he's not slow, and he's only getting quicker. He could regain some of the speed he had. Remember, 32 is this season when he's just returning back. So, yeah, I think there's a lot. I mean, when we profiled him in the summer, I think we both said he was impressive. The areas he was creating threat from, again, make a lot of sense when he's carrying and the rest of it. He was either side happy to carry the ball into these areas and do the business he does. I just think there's a lot of things to like about this guy. I'd like us to really consider this could be a really smart signing for us going forward. He's involved in a lot of play. This is him generally involved every minute. So it's a good age profile. You'll come on to the numbers in terms of finances in a minute, but he is a bit of it's like a figurehead for Dortmund. He's like I don't want to use leader because he's not, but it's just this kind of like drive. And the other thing that really surprised me in watching him, right, he takes a hell of a lot of set plays.
Yeah.
Takes free kicks, penalties, and corners. Right? Centre back. So I'm like, right, so we're going to lose someone in the box not doing the attacking stuff. But we're going to get someone actually taking the set play. So, yeah, I thought there's a lot of things to like about this kid. Obviously, he's going to have to work on his haircut, but, that's fine. But, he's all right.
Yeah, you're right. And it's like you said, that you see it, that's a hell of a start out of them, 9 passes into the final third as well, like progressive in his last game. Like he does make things tick, which does seem to be what Arne Slot's looking for. Financials, you said, he will have a year left to go in the summer. And Lars Ricken, the Dortmund sporting director, has been coming out saying, because there's been suggestions that he's not talking about renewing his contract, that, he's got to make a decision. There's been links with Bayern. The one thing to say, because a lot of people, and this heartens me, Florian Plettenberg has said that Liverpool are definitely not in for Schlotterbeck, and Bayern are, but we know whose mouthpiece Plettenberg is. So that just highlights me and makes me happy because we know how these things work. And you think back to Florian Wirtz in that situation as well. Financials, Bart. Suggestions are that Schlotterbeck's looking for around 8 million euros plus bonuses. So half the wages of Upamecano there, realistically. Younger, yes, of course there's a fee, but this is the thing that strikes me. It's never this simple, but if Upamecano is looking for 60 million euros a year plus bonuses and Schlotterbeck's looking for 8 million a year plus bonuses, over 5 years, that's a 40 million euro difference between the two, isn't it? So when you talk about quote unquote free, and then there'll be signing bonuses and all that, all the stack ups right now, tell me if you're wrong, feel that Schlotterbeck's topping Upamecano, isn't he, really, in most things?
Yeah, I as I said, I think this is a profile of player we should be interested in. The only caveat is he's got to show, and this is why that year thing might be really the injury, right? If he does this season, that's a year off post-injury, right? So that's normally that's a sign that he's then going to, the second year after that, potentially when we buy him, where he's back to his normal form. So if he gets through that with no problems, I think you can really rest assured that he's on the right track. Can take up to 18 months, but you put in the wages to finances. For me, this is a pretty no-brainer deal. That's going to sound really stupid, but it's like a year left. You're going to get him for what? I don't know, 50, 60, I don't know, whatever. But you're not going to pay massive money because there's a year left, right? It's not going to cost you a lot in wages. The other thing this kid might do is it might help Flo because there'll be another German at the club. Right? And there's a lot to be said for having like we signed all the Brazilians, they all got on and we had a massive samba party and we dominated the world, right? But there's a lot to be said for bringing in they have to be the right quality, obviously. Don't just go and sign people's mates, but it's, you have a cultural fit in a dressing room as well, right? So another German coming in, I don't think it's a bad idea personally.
No, people will question it. It's fair to say. He does play, as you said, he plays in the back three for Dortmund in the centre, just played in back two before and does it for Germany at the same time. He is left-footed, so he's going to want to play on the same side as Van Dijk, so people will bring that into the mix. But at the same time, if we're obviously moving to the summer, because we can't really expect, I don't think there's any belief that Schlotterbeck will want to move in January with the World Cup on the horizon as well. Nothing makes sense with that. It's not going to help his bargaining position for a contract, whoever that's with as well. You have got to start to prepare for a world without Virgil, as much as we don't want to admit it. And as much as Virgil is a level above these two and he's level above anyone in world football right now. But this may be a bold statement from what we're seeing and what we've previewed so far. Fact he is left-footed helps, but Schlotterbeck, an eventual, maybe not as good, and I'm not saying that, but an eventual successor of sorts to Van Dijk. Is that fair to put in his column?
I think in terms of our position, his role in our team, for sure. I don't think he's ever going to be Van Dijk level centre-half. I just don't think that's... But I don't think there's many out there. Van Dijk, for me, is the best centre-half I've seen play football for 15 years. A phenomenal centre-half, right? So I think you and I have said this right. You have to move away from trying to get the next Van Dijk. It just doesn't really exist, right? So for this guy with an aerial rate of like that and the on-ball stuff that we need from the back, I just think it makes a lot of sense. Provided his injury is good as it is healed as well as it could be, getting him in the summer, VVD's last year, right? There's quite rightly, no indications VVD's going to sign on again, right? So fine, he has a year left with us. But Schlotterbeck can do the bit in and outs because in a year's time, as much as we might not like to say it, Van Dijk is going to be aging. All right, he is going to get a point where he just simply can't keep cranking out minutes after minutes without getting to that. That point in a game where Van Dijk sometimes gets you can see he's a bit aggy or towards the end of a season. Yeah. So if you can keep him fresher by having a young understudy like this coming in, makes a lot of sense. And then in that next year as well, you'll also have Leone back, right? So it's not a bad little combo to play with. If we sign some other players, we'll come into the rest of here, like Gaye, that could be another little thing to play. So for me, this makes a lot of sense. But before the World Cup, I don't have to tell Hughes to do his job, but I would definitely get a deal done before the World Cup. Because if he goes to the World Cup and has an amazing World Cup, and people know he's only got a year left, his value's going to do that, isn't it? It's going to sky up, and Dortmund are going to be licking the lips over it. So, for me, it makes a lot of sense. Could it be Van Dijk's replacement? Sure. Can it be Van Dijk's level of centre-half? Probably not. But that's fine.
Yeah, and the worry is that the longer this goes on, you want to try and get things in place. Bayern Munich may actually start to realise that, hold on, why are we trying to renew Upamecano on this massive wage and with this fee where we could actually just put this money into a younger, homegrown for them centre-half at the same time as well, a player that's been linked with them in the past. So, I would be absolutely for this. And as you said, talking of summer, yes, Gaye on a free makes the world of sense. And obviously we know how competitive that player seems, or for that player it seems to be at the moment. But if you can get Schlotterbeck in as well, that is looking like unbelievably good business. But we'll see. We've got to wait to summer for all that to unfold. The frustration on this part is, we're looking at two players there and strong links. It all seems to be summer, as we said, because it's a World Cup year, which makes it really tough at the moment. But doing a bit of digging as we do at Anfield Index and obviously linking to things from the summer as well, Liverpool are having a look. It's such a tough market in January. No one's going to pretend that at all. But the info that we've got, and we mentioned this on a transfer show the other night, Liverpool have had scouts at Sporting in Lisbon and Sporting Lisbon specifically. So we'll talk about a few players there that have been mentioned. But also Liverpool have got interest in Jan-Paul van Hecke at Brighton. Now, doing the same sort of process for Van Hecke, 25 will be 26 at the end of the season in June. So the good age that we talked about before. 7 caps, so not a wealth of experience, but a wealth of Dutch pals there as well, isn't there, at the club? There's a real Dutch feel, you know, to become the 6th Dutchman, potentially, if he was to join at the club. Bloom and Barber are in the mix, which always makes negotiation a nightmare because you think Steve Parish is hard to deal with, or, you know, a shrewd negotiator. You're talking Bloom and Barber, 2 of the best in the business. But got to say this, Van Hecke's people indicated in the summer he's not going to renew. So he will have 18 months left in January. And then obviously a year at which, the price is going to drop. Bloom and Barber will, they'll fully get that more than us, and they'll have a yardstick as we talk about. But from a stats point of view, we'll get into it. But we said we watched the footage, did a bit of the eye test. I've got to say, there's things I've got concerns about, but for a centre-half, he doesn't play like a centre-half with the ball, Van Hecke, does he?
No. I think he's 7.5 progressive passes per 90 in the Premier League. So that's up there. Yeah, that's pretty exceptional, to be fair. I mean, just to do his quick pass here, he's got a bit of a mixed bag. We'd be lying if we didn't say that. Right. He is good aerially. I think he's actually only down as an average of 62 in the league, 52 last year. So he's improving, basically, what I'm saying to that. Even on here in the last few days, he's got 76. So, yeah, he's coming up on that. Blocks, does a lot of that. If you watch the footage, he just seemingly like a magnet at times.
Yeah.
So if there's a cross coming in, bang, he's there. If there's a shot coming in, he's there. I mean, one of the games I watched with him was the game at Anfield. And there's a moment where we've got a great move and Trent pings it off for a 1-2 and bang, straight come through the middle of it. Van Hecke it makes the block, wins the ball, plays out the other end, and they go and get a shot off. So you forget in that game how well Brighton played, and he was key part of that, really, really key part of that. And in terms of in the middle, what does he do? What he said about his passes, he carries the ball as well. So 97% of carrying, 1.8 a game. It's not high, but still it's a decent amount for the Premier League. In the box, shot grenade actions. If you watch him again, I think this comes from, and looking at the footage, you understand it. He puts a cross in, so he's often not in the box for set play. This is going to sound weird. He is in the box set play. Don't get stupid. For some of them, they sort of switch it around, recycle, gets pinged out to the right, and it's him on the ball to whip the ball in, right?
Which is weird because he scored a header in the Premier League late for them in the recent footage. It is a bit weird the way they use him that way.
So, I mean, I'm all for a bit of variety, but I think that might be taking it a little bit too far because I think I'd rather have the guy who's he's over 6 foot in the box. Excuse me, being old-fashioned, but trying to win the header rather than trying to create it. But so I think the shot current actions is because they ask him to cross the ball a bit, and therefore he gets assists and the rest of it. But his actual non-penalty goal was a mid 67 percentile, so it's not high. But if you look at what he does, he also has a bad habit of going to ground. Not gonna lie to you, that is something he does do. He is strong, plays right over 2, which is what we want. Through balls, some of those progressive ones are also through balls, which is good. Very good for us to look at. And I thought he's 1-1v1 depending. You watch a lot of the footage. He's there up against Havertz. He's up against Jesus. He's up against I can't remember the goddess that is at City, and he does well in those 1-to-1 situations. So he's quite handy, and he doesn't get the handsy, doesn't get into the grappling motion. He's just there being a good 1-to-1 defender. Only thing you can see if he goes out wide. He gets megged quite a bit going out wide. Now, I know the Premier League, you're playing against really good wingers, but it's just something when he gets pulled out wide, that is a bit of a weakness of his game. I've watched in a lot of the footage I've watched of him. So, yeah, I think if he plays right over 2, I think he could have a strong influence for us. It's just you want him in the box or crossing in the box, but his passing is certainly good enough. His aerials are certainly in the right direction. So yeah, it seems like a fairly good, I would say, a Premier League proven profile for us to go after. and to look at certainly having on the squad roster. The only other thing I would add as a caveat, so going to ground is something you've noticed. You'll see get made wide, but everybody get made wide. Because he plays for Brighton, and this is not his fault, he won't be used to playing twice a week. So, although he's clocked up some very, very good minutes, because he's an ever-present for Brighton, has been for the last 2 seasons, right? Pretty much when he played, missed a few games. But so he's clocked up, 2-3, 2-9 in the last 2 seasons. Great. So that's gone up. Yeah, he's got more than that in other competitions. But he won't be used to doing Saturday, midweek. And you'll see that is a big problem for a lot of players, right? Centre half less so, they can get trained, they can get used to it. But you've seen players coming before better than this guy. This guy's good. That are used to just doing one set a week and just completely fall apart when he asks them to do twice a week. So that's just a caveat. I think there's a few things in his game which would be interesting to see what Slot does with them. I don't think he's generally going to ask him to put a ball in for set pieces. Generally, I think he's going to be doing that. And as long as we keep him out for the wide positions, I think he'd be good. But essentially, defending 1v1 was quite impressed. And he's doesn't quite. So whereas Dayot and Schlotterbeck quite happy to come up and get it and win it and nick it.
Yeah.
Van Heck's not that kind of guy. I didn't see any evidence in doing that in the footage. I think he more like hold position and deal with you when you come onto you. So, and that's fine. I'm not against that. It'd be nice to not have a centre half going and putting his own fires out like Liverpool's had to do for the past few seasons. So yeah, I think to answer your question, I think this could be a smart buy. I think Brighton might be up for a purchase in Jan. May not be. I don't know. They're not stupid, are they, with their money and their finances? So maybe we get him in Jan.
The big thing about the finances in Jan, and this is important to say, that Brighton were looking for a fee. There was various suggestions when you check back about 45 million for him in last summer, knowing full well that Spurs, Newcastle, they were kind of touting him around because it became clear Van Hecke wasn't going to sign. 2 years left on the deal. Brighton are shrewd operators. We know, they don't make mistakes like we do and end up in these situations. They're not that type of club. It's the nature of how they do business. Now, if he was 43 million or 45, million, from suggestions in the summer, the price has to have gone down because in January we'll have, I know he's playing well and people will look at that. And as you called out, I mean, the progressive passes and the progressive carries, that's 2 massive strings to his bow there. And as you also said, Premier League proven, because we're always going to have to mention things like bully tax and that adjustment as well. Yeah. So Premier League proven at the same time. But the reason I'm mentioning these figures, Barts, is Liverpool haven't got a piggy bank. Don't get me wrong. We are not Mo Chatra on Money Talks, but there's at least 35 million, quote unquote, sat there because it wasn't spent on Mark Gay, was it? In the summer. So, and we're being told quite clearly that Mark Gay from Ornstein, Joyce, all your major players, it's Gay in the summer. There's no, it's January. It's not going to happen. Liverpool don't think a deal's done there. But Van Hecke, and I'm not saying this is the exact fee, but up to 35 million with 18 months left to go. Does that not seem decent business overall? I know it's not the sexiest purchase for some, but with its progressive nature on what we're lacking at the moment, Premier League proven, not 26 until the end of the season. Dutch, doesn't it seem a good deal?
I think that seems a very good deal. I think if you've already said, you say it numerous times on the transfer show, January's a really tough market.
Yeah.
To get value, to get a player that fits your system, right, without paying over the odds for it, right? So if you can get him for 35 million quid, which is what we like, quite rightly what you said we were going to spend on Gay, and you structure it so we don't actually pay that amount up front. We pay whatever we do, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that could be shrewd. And then if you already have the others lined up for the summer, Gay plus one other, I think you sort out our backline problems moving forward, right? I think that's a really clever bit of business. I think equally, if you go back to what the deals we have done in January, right?
True.
A Premier League proven starter for a top 10 club versus going and getting Davis or the Turkish guy, I can't even remember, as a stopgap for centre half, right?
Yeah.
So I think we have moved on as a club, and we're in a very good position. And I think that's a shrewd. If you get him for that price point, wages aren't going to be that high. I don't know whether is he in this. I can't remember if he's in Dutch squad or not. I didn't check that far, but I didn't think he was in the Dutch rotation. I think that makes a lot of sense to get this guy in, and he would solve your problems in January straight away. You could just play him.
Yeah, and also if it does go off the boil or carries on, shall we say, you've got a progressive option there. It does seem just such a shrewd business move. Again, needing to be supplemented in the summer, but for Jan. The other two, and this is going to sound harsh because I don't want to spend a massive amount of time, but as we said before on various shows, Liverpool have had scouts at the sporting games, and there's a few names that come up, and it kind of strikes me sometimes, Barts, that, listen, we do transfer stuff, but people like a sexy name, or there's a link and it's new and it's, brilliant and all this, it's got to be. But the two that Liverpool have been linked with, I'm probably butchering his name here, but Debast, Belgian international, DM and centre-back. Usman Diomande, as we know, a player that we've looked at before. Now, a couple of things with these. Diomande's 21, 22 in December. Same agency as Virgil van Dijk. So, Liverpool have a good relationship there. So, that will work in favour. Debast, 21, 22 next week, literally, as well. The big thing about Debast as well, speaking to a few sort of Portuguese sources, and shout out to Tom Cundert for this, is that Debast is not a physical centre-half in the Portuguese league. And in fact, quite a few of the Portuguese sources we're speaking to says he profiles better as a DM rather than a centre-half. And Sporting have used him in both. Diomande, decent in possession, but not maybe as progressive as the others. It's not trying to do down these players, but I don't think they strike as high as two of the ones we've mentioned there, do they?
No, I mean, if we look at Debast, right, you are absolutely spot on by saying he's not physical. I mean, do you remember Hugo Laurie?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you get where I'm going with this, right? The Debast is probably better than that kid, right? I don't want to talk ill of past players, but he can pass the football. That's pretty obvious he can, right? I think he's made 47 progressive passes in 7.5 starts for Sporting. I know Portuguese tax, the rest of it, but that is 6.37 a game, right? That's an incredible amount of progressive passes. It's up there somewhere. It's 6.335 a game. I think if you look at his, so this is the stuff that he's exceptional at, right? In between the boxes, passes attempted, pass completion, progressive passes, 99th percentile for last year around the top 5 leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, but this is the stuff where people will talk about. He's defensively, he's got a 44% area win rate. That's just not even like our academy players would have a higher win rate than that.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I don't mean to not the keeper. That just wouldn't work for us. Right. It's like, the guy from Bournemouth, Hussein, the centre half.
So he plays. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Dean Hyston can play the pass a bit like this kid, can play the ball, can do all the carrying stuff, but Hyston can actually defend as well, right? This kid seemingly hasn't developed that part of it. He plays right in the two. He's made 6 starts. He looks to have taken the place of Diomande, by the way. Diomande's only played once this season. He came off, and then this kid came on. And he's another centre-half who likes to take a set piece, right? He doesn't like to be on the end of them. And he shoots something like, it's basically has a shot per 90, like every other game he has a shot, right, on target, that is, right. Shoots a lot for a centre-half. He's watched a lot of the footage. He gets pinged out, he's taken it, and he's finished up in the pocket after a centre play, and he's there trying to fire a ball in. They're not all on target, but he's just, so I think playing him as DM would be interesting. But again, in the footage I watched, I just watched him play centre half. So, because that's the thing we were looking at. So, but now as a centre half, I think we'd be mad to play him centre half in the Premier League. I think he'd get bullied. The likes of, there's a lot of Chris Woods type players in the league, better ability than Chris Woods, but that kind of physicality matters, right? They would just absolutely destroy him. I think United have got a big, strong centre half. Arsenal have, City have. They've all got centre halves that would just go, do you know what? I don't fancy Van Dijk. I'm going to go and sit on you. And I don't think you've got to handle them. So for me, there's huge upside in what you can do on the football, with the football.
Yeah,
I get that. But there is the other side of the game, as we saw there on the red. You've got to be able to defend. You've got to be able to do some basics. And I said, the footage I saw, I'm not saying he was poor defensively, because again, Sporting have a lot of the ball.
Absolutely.
But physicality, the rest of it just wasn't there. He made up for mistakes by being quick, which is never a good recipe for long-term success.
You're right. And like similar when you see the footage of him, excellent on the ball, a good footballer, like great passer, range, like you said. You can see that, did well for Belgium in the minutes he had as well when we watched that foot. A lot to like. But as you said, in the Premier League, and I think his name's almost is in the mix a little bit in terms of, because people want to say, oh, well, Liverpool need to be more progressive from the back. So here's a really progressive guy who's playing centre half at the moment. But if he's in the Premier League, and you mentioned some names, and honestly, I thought this when watching him, thinking of the games we've played. Remember we played Palace? I think Mateta would destroy this kid. Absolutely ruin him.
Yeah. He killed everybody that night. So he's going to kill this kid. No, that's just facts. That's going to happen, So, yeah.
And the Chris Woods,
I agree.
They're going to be licking their lips if he's in Liverpool's backline, just saying, just keep the ball away from Van Dijk. Don't worry about that. Just attach yourself, and we'll play on that side type of thing. So there's that. And the other reason I mentioned, because Diomande, as we said, same agency as Van Dijk, and we've looked at this kid, and people will bring AFCON and other things into the mix, but experience, the passing rate and bits like this. But it's important to say that when you watch, or from the bits you can watch this season, a lot of it we had to go back to last season. Debast seems to have taken his place in the Sporting side somewhat as well.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. Again, this has dropped off. When we last looked at him 6 months ago, right? This profile was a lot better. But that's what happens when you don't play. We don't play, or when you do play, you come in on a sub and you do minutes. It's aggregated up, and if you don't play well for 15 minutes here and there, it just causes you, like, your data then looks a problem, right? And he still attempts a fair amount of passes. His pass completion is good, but they're not dangerous passes. And when you watch him play, he'll win the ball, he'll bring it just over halfway, and he'll look for a 5-yard ball. He'll be like, look, who can I give this to? I don't want to be here, but I know I can't lose the football, so I'm just going to give it to somebody else. Right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong, because at least he's not giving it away. He's not trying to drift over the top, going nowhere. But it doesn't add to our game at all. I mean, some of them, I saw him take the ball up to halfway, turn around and play it back to his keeper. Yeah. Now, I know we don't want to lose the football, but that's a bit extreme, right? Funnily, though, when you watch him for Ivory Coast, he's different. He was pinging it out wide. He was drifting it over the top. He was trying a different range of passes. So I don't watch enough of African football to tell you what the level is. I wouldn't suggest as that much, but they're both below Premier League, maybe both below Premier League. So, I think maybe he doesn't like coming into a compact area in midfield with the ball, and it gets a bit like, whoa, what we're doing here, right? So his passing, it gets a bit affected. But aerials, 67 will round out for him. Still pretty decent for aerials. I think he plays right over 2, which is why he's not playing. I've written down uncultured passing, and that's me being kind, because at times he looks very uncomfortable. I think I said to you off mic, he reminds me of Yaya's brother when he played for us at centre half. The way he passes the football is a bit
Colo Torre.
Colo Torre type. It's just not. It's not. When you watch Van Dijk, he's got this lovely body position. He's got his arms out. He's pinging the ball. It's majestic, right? This guy isn't that. All right, he's just not that. So, I think he's another one that likes to get an arm on a shoulder in a duel, bit of a duel monster. Wins the duel, but he still likes to get an arm on a shoulder. And he attempts something like about 4.5 progressive passes per 90 last season. This season, it's unfair to judge him. He's not playing. But no, I think he is used to playing twice a week. You've got to say that about the Sporting lads.
True.
Because they're in Europe. They're used to doing it. He's clocked up minutes. If we were to sign him now, he would come off the back of, I would say, a fairly unsuccessful season unless something massive happens. Yeah. Touch wood. I don't want to wish ill on anybody. No, there's a guy playing better than him in his position and seemingly the manager's pick, right? So unless Debast falls off a cliff in terms of his form, Diomande is going to end up, I would suggest, being on the sidelines for most of the season, right? So he's not going to clock up fast minutes. So you're gonna sign a centre half not probably in the prime of his form that he was last summer when he first looked at him. But yeah, I mean, they're both 21 as well. You wouldn't know that looking at them. You think one was Debast looks younger than Diomande, but yeah. I think these two are a notch below the three we've looked at. I think you've got Schlotterbeck and Dayot kind of at the top. You've got Van Hecke, sorry, the next one, and then these two are kind of down here. And I think you and I have chatted about we've already got a project centre half. I don't think we need another one personally.
I think that's the big thing because when people will say, "Well, no, like," but Liverpool specifically have looked in this market. We know they tried for Lenny Yoro before, obviously, with the Rail and that United move with the money, and obviously United's a graveyard for centre halves. And then, of course, Leone, is in the Golden Boy nominees. That was the one they wanted. It's just unfortunate with this horrific injury. I think that's important to say because where Liverpool want to be and where they want to go, they're not really going to carry two project centre halves, aren't they? They like to have a small base of centre halves, like 5, as we all want, is a bit unusual for them. They're not going to take 2 on board, the smart money says, does it?
No, 100%. I think also, let's be frank as well, if Leone hadn't got injured, right, you never know. He might have had a huge season for us, clocked up 1,500 minutes, and then they might be prepared to take another risk on. But they're not going to do that even more now because they've got the youngster that they've paid money for. They believe in him. The next season is going to be this season for Leone, right? Or it might even be further out than that. So, yeah, I think you're right. Whoever they buy now for centre half is going to be players that can come in ready-made. They know they're going to perform, and they're going to be round pegs and round holes, and they're going to perform. They haven't got room for a project because the project player they bought is injured, and they don't want to let him down. They want to bring him back, and he's still with their project player.
So there you go, people. I know Debast and Diomande have been linked, and Debast seems to be a fashionable name, and I've seen the highlights of him where people love the on-the-ball stuff. Listen, if he didn't have to defend, Debast looks great on the ball, doesn't he? But unfortunately, it does, especially at Liverpool. In terms of the two Germans, it's Schlotterbeck over Upamecano all day long. That's not being derogatory of Upamecano. Probably you just want a full season of Schlotterbeck to see it, but there's so much to like. And say 9 out of 10 passes go into that final goal. Absolutely sensational. Van Hecke as well. It does seem a smart move in January if they can do it. We will see what happens there. All it leaves me to say as ever is for the insight, for the analysis, and for giving us the full rundown and watching the footage parts, it is massively appreciated.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was a Transfer Market Metrics special for Anfield Index.